America is losing a commuter rail system in less than a month. This is Northstar, a commuter train from Minneapolis, Minnesota to its nearby suburbs. And I'm here in the Twin Cities to ride it for my first and last time.
So, have you taken the Northstar before?
No, I don't live here. I'm from Boston.
Oh, really?
But why does Northstar service get such low ridership? Why is it getting axed? And why can't I get to the inbound platform?
What do we do?
The only way to find out is to go for a ride. Northstar commuter rail starts at Minneapolis' Target Field station, where riders can transfer to the city's light rail. It then runs 40 miles north to the suburb of Big Lake, serving a total of 7 stations. Since there's only one train today, I'm planning to Uber to Big Lake, then ride the train back to Minneapolis. Unfortunately, Ubers to Big Lake are close to $100, and there's no outbound train or bus I can take to get there. Indeed, Northstar doesn't normally run on weekends at all. But today, Sunday, December 7th, 2025, the Minnesota Vikings are playing the Washington Commanders, so Northstar is running a special game day train, with one inbound trip in the morning and one outbound trip at the end of the game. I end up settling on an Uber to Coon Rapids, one of the closer stations to downtown, in order to catch and document the inbound trip.
It is also like 2 degrees outside. That's Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So I've spent the last hour or so waiting for the train inside a local Minnesota business known as, I think it's pronounced Target. I believe it originated here in the Minneapolis area. Fact check me in the comments.
Walking to the station, I pass a series of apartment towers. I wonder if people living there are regular Northstar riders. Then we reach the station entrance and turn into the 466-space parking lot. Many Northstar stations are park and rides, and the system's current schedule is strongly oriented around 9 to 5 weekday commuters. As of December 2025, 3 trains depart Big Lake from Minneapolis on weekday mornings, and 1 follows in the afternoon. In reverse, 1 train leaves Minneapolis in the early morning, and the other 3 leave in the mid to late afternoon. There is no service on weekends, except of course on game days like today when the Twins or Vikings play.
It is worth noting, on first impression, this station is quite substantial. Like, a lot of the stations you'll see on places like New Jersey Transit or SEPTA or that sort of thing, they get way more riders and they are way less built up. Very elaborate for a fairly little used commuter rail line.
Coon Rapids Station is quite large, with long, low-level platforms with many highs, ticket vending machines, posted schedules, digital displays which sometimes work, heated waiting areas which are locked, and a glorious enclosed, heated skybridge with elevators soaring over the tracks, the entrance to which is locked.
Not sure what's going on, because the skybridge is, as far as I can tell, the only way to get across the tracks. And that, on the far side, is where the inbound trains to Target Field are normally boarding. So, what are we supposed to do? This is confusing. This is not good messaging on the part of Metro Transit.
A sizable contingent of Vikings fans show up to board. Indeed, I'm probably the only person on the platform not wearing purple. But I'm not the only one who realizes we're locked out of the skybridge. So how are we getting to the train?
What do we do? Surely, like, someone's gonna get off the train and come unlock the doors or something?
A minute goes by before a friendly conductor appears to open the skybridge and let us across. His uniform includes the BNSF logo, as that railroad is contracted to operate the Northstar service. Our train consists of 2 MP36PH3C locomotives and a rake of Bombardier bi-level coaches, the only equipment types in Northstar's fleet. Boarding is accomplished through the lower level, like on many commuter rail systems in the western United States, and I take a seat in the middle level as the train springs to life.
It's a pretty packed train.
Yeah.
I'm pleasantly, I don't know about surprised. You know, when something like this exists, people use it.
Northstar was conceived in the late 90s and early 2000s, and the plan went through a variety of revisions over the years. Some proposals called for trains running 80 miles to the city of Rice, but ultimately a 40-mile run to Big Lake was chosen instead. To drum up support for the line, several demonstration trips were organized, including one using commuter rail equipment on its way to Seattle for their sounder service. Eventually, funding for the system was obtained, much of which went into track upgrades and building stations along the existing BNSF right-of-way. Northstar opened to the public in 2009, with 6 trains per direction every day and limited weekend service. In 2010, the first full year of operation, it scored over 710,000 riders, and throughout the following decade, ridership remained relatively consistent, with the highest passenger count of 793,000 in 2017. Clearly, things were going pretty decently for Northstar. So why is it now closing just 16 years after launch? Well, before we get to the line's fall, I want to take a moment to thank my generous Patreon supporters who helped me visit Minneapolis in the same weekend as Seattle. As always, these wonderful people get early access to videos and bonus content. And this week's creator shoutout is Sammy Marco, who made an excellent video about Amtrak's return to Roanoke, Virginia. Go check that out. So as we all know, COVID decimated transit ridership across America, like my wife decimating a plate of Mexican food. 2020 saw the elimination of weekend and special event service on Northstar, and a reduction from 72 weekly trips to 20, which shakes out to 2 trips per direction per weekday. This sort of schedule cut was typical of that time. But when other commuter rail operators around the nation restored service during the following years, Northstar kept its Spartan schedule, due in part to a funding dispute with one of the 3 counties funding the train. Service frequency was finally restored somewhat in late 2023, with 4 round trips on weekdays and the return of special event service, but still no weekend service, and 2 less weekday trips per direction than before. This was too little, too late. In 2024, only 127,000 riders rode Northstar, making it the second least used standalone commuter rail system in the US, behind only Nashville's WeGoStar, which I covered in a previous video. So I posted a video about that, and it got more views than any other videos on my channel. And a lot of people were saying, oh, you gotta do Northstar, because Northstar is the second least used commuter rail system. It isn't like just an extension of a light rail. In early 2025, it was announced that, due to low ridership, studies were to be undertaken to see if buses could replace Minnesota's commuter trains. In August, the writing was on the wall. The line would close for good in January 2026. Northstar's final trip will be on January 4th for the Vikings game that day. In its place, a new system of commuter buses will be launched the following day, with 3 different services connecting different portions of the former commuter rail route with downtown. Per Metro Transit, which will operate the new bus service, this will mean a near 10-fold increase in the number of trips available on the corridor. Schedule-wise, this isn't the worst thing. Advocates all over the country have been pushing for regional transit schedules that aren't as single-mindedly centered around 9-to-5 workers. And it's theoretically going to save millions of dollars. Northstar had an operating budget of $18.6 million in 2025, per the Minnesota Star Tribune, while the new bus system is estimated to cost $3.5 million annually instead. But those new bus trips aren't going to be on a steel and gravel expressway that could let them dodge congested highway traffic. They're not going to use a lot of the station infrastructure left behind by Minnesota's experiment with commuter rail. This change eliminates one-seat rides between the network's outer stations, the sort of service that was a lifeline to me in college as I took the Newburyport-Rockport line up and down the Massachusetts North Shore for bike rides without going into Boston. And as we saw at Coon Rapids Station, several stations along the line had land cleared to be developed as rail-oriented development. Now it's just going to be bus-oriented development, which again isn't the worst thing, but speaking as someone who can step out of my apartment, get on the MBTA commuter rail within a few steps, and ride it straight to my job, that sounds like a downgrade. Passenger rail in America today rarely makes money, and fundamentally it needs the support of its communities to survive and thrive. It's an investment that can lead to economic growth, equitable movement, increased property values, and reduced pollution and traffic congestion. And we see time and time again that when there are good trains to places people want to go, people want to ride them. But support for rail is often tied to real-world results, and results are very much determined by the quality of a system and how much investment goes into it. When trains are run on a limited schedule for a very specific use case, with a disputed budget on a freight rail corridor that's usually going to prioritize freight, it's going to be easier for people who are more skeptical of rail to point fingers and say, that's not worth spending our money on. You know, I don't want it to go away, I like trains, but I can sort of see why people who maybe aren't super big rail advocates would look at this and say, yeah, it should be a bus. Once support weakens, it's a slippery slope until you have an entire commuter line closing and replaced by buses after less than 20 years. Just like I said with my Heartland Flyer video, it's hard to convince skeptics to pour extra money into a substandard rail line in the hopes of making it better, and hard to convince them to keep funding one that isn't doing enough to impress them. But that doesn't mean we should stop trying, even after a closure like this one. For now, we're crossing the Mississippi River and pulling into Target Field, the end of the line. It's here that we get a last look at our train, in a bold and beautiful livery that will likely soon get painted over by whoever owns it next. I'm sure some other operator like TRE is going to snap it all up, especially considering the upcoming World Cup and its anticipated transit traffic. Going inside the small station building, complete with a tiny departure screen, we ascend an escalator to the top and exit out to the light rail platforms. Here, if anything, is our story's silver lining. The Twin Cities have gone all out building their light rail system, and with thousands of daily riders, there's no chance that's going away anytime soon. But that's a story for another video.